Hi everybody, Bill Duvendack here with the monthly astrological preview video for March 2024. So grab your cuppa, take a swig, get cozy, and let's chat about the third month of the calendar year. I like to start off with that because really, this is not the third month of the year, it's the third month of the calendar year. And the reason this is important is because in March, we have the equinox. So a lot of this month's activity is predicated on bridging the old with the new. This is a theme that really makes people uncomfortable to talk about in this day and age because what we're talking about is innovation and progress versus being stuck in the past with some jackassy notion of a golden age behind us. We all know, I would hope, that those times that we think of in the past were wonderful, that they weren't really flippin' wonderful at all. Let's just accept that as fact because history teaches us that's a fact. I wouldn't want to go back to a time without electricity. So, I don't want to go back to a time of racism, sexism, a whole list of other discriminations. And that's a major theme of March, embracing the new, paving the way for the new, but also getting rid of the old. Not letting it die a horrible death, putting two in its head and ending its problem. So, let's start on that happy note, shall we? First of all, March 1st begins with a stellium in Pisces. For those of you that don't know the term, a stellium means there are 3 or more planets in a particular sign. So we start off March with the Sun, Saturn, and Mercury all conjunct in Pisces, and Neptune, a ruling planet of Pisces, is in the sign as well. So what this tells us right out of the gate is exactly what I was saying. Pisces is the most visionary sign of the zodiac. Aquarius is the second most visionary, and you could argue it's on the same level as Pisces because Aquarius is air, Pisces is water, and both have to do with being a visionary. But in order to get there, the Saturn part of the conjunction tells us it's time to step up our game. It's time to mature. It's time to try new things. It's time to try different things. It's time to apply common sense, logic, and reason to all of the social and cultural woes that we see in the world around us. In short, old methods aren't working. Those of us that want to push the envelope to embrace the new and something different are being persecuted, maybe not actively, but we are paying a price for having a vision. And that's what the Saturn says. The Saturn influence in this says, well, what you have been doing isn't working. Try something new, but expect to be ridiculed for it because you're more advanced than them. The Mercury part of Pisces conjunction, though, is problematic because when you have Mercury in Pisces, it means communication's not your strong suit. You talk in allegory, symbolism, you tell long winding stories when a 30-second sound bite would be better. So while you're stepping up to the next level, keep your communication clear, concise, analytical, and exacting. Now, the good news about Mercury in Pisces is that now is a time when you may find it is easier to contact spiritual beings for their assistance. So contacting inner planes, teachers, and masters would be easy to do at this time. On the first, we also have Chiron conjunct the north node of the moon in Aries. This is a time to heal your psychological and mental wounds that stop you from reaching your full potential, because if you go through the healing process now, you are cultivating positive spiritual growth going forward. We also have Venus conjunct Mars in Aquarius. And this is squaring Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. Venus and Mars being conjunct is a major theme through the whole month. Let's break it down. Venus is the planet of creativity, love, beauty, the appreciation of those, and the money that you generate from putting those things into action. Mars, of course, is the planet of aggression. It is the planet of competition. It is the going forth impulse. And on a very bare level, Venus is female, Mars is male. So when you have the two blended together, it says that the stars are aligned in such a way that you might find it easy to balance out your feminine and masculine sides. And the Aquarius part of the equation tells us that when you do this, don't allow yourself to be judged by others. Let them judge you, but don't care about their opinions. 99.9% of the time, they're wrong anyway. And at the end of the day, they aren't paying your bills. So who cares what they say? Now, the square part to Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus tells us that while you are so hell-bent on expressing your masculine and feminine balance in new, innovative, different ways, it's probably going to ruffle some feathers with the traditionalists. It's probably going to put you in unknown territory. Taurus represents tradition and what you know. Aquarius is embracing the new, and it may look radically different to people that don't have the intellectual capacity to keep up with you. Part of the problem that comes with this is that Jupiter is prosperity. So if you get hung up on expressing your inner masculine, feminine sides and harmonizing them, you might find that money's not there. Or perhaps money's there, but prosperity isn't. The expansion that goes along with Jupiter might not be present if you're focused too much on expressing your feminine and masculine sides. In the Uranus part of the equation, squaring Venus and Mars gives us a strong warning. Be careful what you say on the internet. The Uranus corresponds to the internet, so whenever there's a square there, it says, pay attention to what you're doing online. Never forget that the internet does not forget. Everything that's been on there can be found somewhere. It might not be obvious, but it is there, and things can come back to haunt you. Also on that day, we've got that Sun, Mercury, Saturn conjunction in Pisces sextiling Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. A sextile is an easy flowing aspect that shows that energies are being nice and positively exchanged between the 2 points. So where I'm going with this is if you get hung up too much on expressing your blended masculine and feminine sides, not only will it work against you financially and spiritually, but you may also find that the way to deal with this is to not put it in everybody's face. Become a visionary. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. With all this activity in Pisces, sextiling the activity in Taurus, it's saying now's a good time to take your inner vision and figure out how to bring it down into physical reality. That same Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius is sextiling Chiron and the North Node in Aries. So yes, while expressing your blended individuality is a good thing, and it is also something that might trigger people that can't evolve, you're still doing the right thing by focusing on it. So right here on the 1st, we see that there is a fine balance to be cultivated between Piscean energy, Aquarius energy, and offset by Taurus energy. We also have the moon in Scorpio squaring Venus in Aquarius. The moon in Scorpio is all about not being able to let go of past hurts or having emotions so intense and so deeply that other people can't relate to it. And the square to Venus in Aquarius tells us that if you're too hung up on any of those lunar traits I just described, it's probably going to work against you financially and in your romantic relationships. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Be grounded and remember moderation. The moon in Scorpio is also opposing Uranus in Taurus. So this tells us that your own limitations from emotional wounds that have not been fielded. Well, they haven't been fielded either. That's a joke for all you baseball fans out there, and I think cricket. Where I'm going with this is, if you're so hung up on the woe is me, this happened many years ago, and because of that, I can't do X, Y, and Z, then this aspect is saying, oh, you're right. You can't be your self-actualized being. And the only way to deal with that is to fix your wounds. Also on the 1st, that moon in Scorpio is trining Neptune in Pisces. For those of you that are mystically inclined or magically inclined, that means the 1st is a good day to initiate into occultism, maybe take your spiritual growth another step higher and further, or at least put yourself in a position for sustained growth on down the road. On the 2nd, a lot of those major themes continue, but now we add the moon in Sagittarius sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. So what this tells us is that the more that you are open and honest with your emotions, the more you believe and promote such ideas as freedom, sovereignty, anything along those lines, the more you are helping the whole of the species ascend to the next level. On the 3rd, we've got that moon in Sagittarius, now sextiling the Venus-Mars conjunction in Aquarius. So by living your authentic self and your freedom-loving self, you are developing an environment that you can use to express who you truly are in new and different ways. Now that moon in Sagittarius is also squaring the Sun-Mercury conjunction in Pisces, and I like to think of this as a little warning. It's saying you can be open and honest all you want, but there's going to be people there that don't like it. You may be perfectly blunt and honest about something, but somebody who's way too sensitive with not enough education and control when it comes to their emotions is going to get hurt by it. Can't have an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Now, you can be mindful of the people you're talking to. So if you know somebody is too emotional, then watch your words. Don't be a prude about it, but don't be surprised if you being honest triggers the emotions in others. Also on the 3rd, we've got that moon in Sagittarius trining the Chiron North Node conjunction in Aries. So by working with freedom, individuality, travel, spirituality, you are cultivating your own healing. Another way to process this is that you may know your limitations and your psychological and mental wounds that are evidenced by Chiron in Aries. But then the Sagittarius moon says, great, you can identify the problem. Now it's time to liberate yourself from the shackles you have based on past events. The longer you get hung up on past events, the more they control you. On the 4th, that moon in Sagittarius continues, but now it squares Neptune in Pisces. This tells us that this is a day to be spiritual, but not to the degree of escapism. This tells us this is a good time to travel, but be careful with trips overseas. And I do mean seas specifically, not over ponds or over rivers, over oceans. There could be some problems there. So if you fly a lot, watch out for delays. If you are one of those people that likes to put travel as a last minute item, then this is saying that's probably not going to go so well for you. On the 5th, we've got the moon now in Capricorn, sextiling Saturn in Pisces. This tells us that beginning the 5th and lasting into the 6th, it's a good time to take charge. Put your emotional sensitivity aside. Focus on what you need to do for you. Focus on the responsible. Focus on the mature. Focus on the practical. And when you do that, you'll find that you grow spiritually exponentially. Now that same moon in Capricorn is also squaring that Chiron North Node combination in Aries. So it's telling us that the more you take charge, the more you're probably going to unearth some wounds that are not healed that you didn't expect. And that's okay. We all have an idea where we're wounded, but we might not know the extent of the wound. Or we might think we healed the whole thing when in reality, we just scratched the surface. Also on that day, that moon in Capricorn is trining Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. So to summarize the 5th and then bleeding into the 6th, it's all about, stepping up, being responsible, being mature, shutting down those emotions when necessary. We just talked about the challenges that would come with the creative side with the previous aspects. But now this says if you focus on your work and put all the emotional stuff to the side, you're in a good position to make a long-term foundation going forward. On the 6th, that moon in Capricorn is forming an out-of-sign conjunction with Pluto in Aquarius, telling us that on one hand, you might be torn between doing what is responsible versus embracing the new. And of course, the way to handle this is to blend the two. How do you blend the two? It's easy. You know the principles. Now it's time to take new approaches to put them into place. Also on the 6th, that moon in Capricorn forms a gently flowing positive sextile to Neptune in Pisces. So you may find that this is a good day to say, hey, I've got a vision for my life, and now I know the steps I need to take to get there. Or, hey, I'm focused on my career and, I see this new idea that I can implement and it'll be a hit. On the 7th, we have a stellium in Aquarius, which has really been there all along, Venus, Mars, Pluto, but it goes with the Pisces stellium, and now it has the moon in Aquarius for the 7th. I want to take just a brief moment to talk about this because on the 7th, we've got a stellium in Aquarius and a stellium in Pisces. As I said at the beginning of this video, both Pisces and Aquarius are known as the visionary signs. So all of the emphasis on the 7th is on the visionary. What's your vision? What new methods are you taking to better your life and the lives of those around you? If you're using old methods and you're getting the same results, you're not going to start getting any new results until you change your methods. Now, with this moon in Aquarius sextiling Chiron, which is conjunct the North Node in Aries, it tells us that now is a time where embracing a visionary perspective on things can accrue some internal healing. Now, also on that day, we've got the moon in Aquarius squaring Jupiter in Taurus. So I encourage you to watch your spending, play things financially conservative, maybe go back and review your financial state to see what corners can be cut and what things need to be changed. On the 8th, we've got the moon in Aquarius conjunct Venus in Aquarius. It's a day of love, baby, love. It is a day to reach out to your romantic partners and simply enjoy them. You may find money comes your way during this day through technology, the healthcare system, astrology. If you're an astrologer, you might get an influx in business. If you've been thinking about getting some astrology work done, this would be the day to do it. Why? Because both Pisces and Aquarius are not only known as being visionary signs, both are associated with astrology specifically. And yes, you could extend that line of logic out to say that that means Aquarius is more in line with astronomy and Pisces is more aligned with astrology, but really they're both astrology when you get down to it. Also on that day, we've got Venus conjunct Neptune in Pisces. That tells us it's a good day for sculpture. It's a good day for drawing. It's a good day for painting. It's a good day for any kind of self-expression that does not involve a pen and paper. On one hand, this is great because there will be easy communication between the planes. So it's a good day for meditation and spiritual work. It's not such a good day to have important conversations with people because, frankly, if you suffer from this aspect, you're not going to be communicating that clearly. On the 9th, we've got the moon now in Pisces conjunct Saturn, so you may feel limitations when it comes to your spiritual growth. And these limitations are from things that happened in the past, probably emotionally or spiritually speaking, rather than physically or intellectually. But the good news is, if your intuition is screaming at you to do something, on the 9th, it's the day to put that into action. Also on that day, we've got that moon in Pisces sextiling Jupiter and Uranus, which tells us that if you positively work with that moon Saturn conjunction in Pisces, you might see some instant gratification kind of rewards on the physical plane or financially or through the internet that come about from that. On the 10th is the new moon in Pisces. Mercury moves into Aries, which gives us an Aries stellium to go with Aquarius and Pisces. And the sun and moon, which are always conjunct during the new moon, are now conjunct Neptune. So the 10th is pretty powerful, and I don't know how many people are talking about that. The reason the 10th is so powerful is because it's an inundation of Pisces energy. Fantastic. I've been describing it through this whole video, but it can be too much of a good thing. For those people that have addiction problems, they may get triggered on this day. For those that are emotional abusers, this is a day when you might get what's coming to you. Also on the 10th, because of that new moon, it's a good time to start new spiritual routines, new mystical routines, new meditation routines. And quite honestly, it's going to be a day that kind of feels like a mini Mercury retrograde because Mercury is moving from Pisces to Aries. Now, the good news is it's only going to last about a day or so. But it does give you a teaser to the fact that at the end of the month is our first planet going retrograde for the year. And it starts off with a bang with a Mercury retrograde in Aries on the 31st. On the 11th, we've got the moon conjunct Chiron, conjunct the North Node in Aries. Long story short, your emotions and your intuition may guide you to what you need to do for healing. And once that healing is accrued, you can now chart a path going forward, spiritually speaking. Venus moves into Pisces on that day. So here on the 9th and 10th, we've got the two inner planets moving signs. So on the 10th, communication may be challenged. And then on the 11th, your romantic relationships may be challenged, or money coming to you through creative or visionary ideas might be challenged. On the 12th, we have the moon in Aries sextiling Mars in Aquarius. So it's a good time to be proactive when it comes to pushing ahead and making new things happen. So jump on that bandwagon. Ride it on the 12th, and then the 13th, we see the moon move into Taurus, basically. And I say that because the moon changes signs about every 2.5 days. So it'll probably be Aries early on and then Taurus later. But I point this out because now we have a Taurus stellium to go with the Aries stellium, which goes with the Pisces stellium and the Aquarius stellium. Now, the positive of stelliums, because obviously this is the day to talk about it, there's 4 of them, is that you have an exceptional focus on those life areas indicated by the signs. You excel with them, so make sure to give yourself a pat on the back, but also that the energy is so knotted up in those areas, it can't flow freely through the rest of your life. On one hand, good. Now you know if you focus on Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, and Tauran traits during this time, you're going to have success, but be careful it does not put blinders on you to make you oblivious to other areas of your life that need support. Also on that day, we've got the moon conjunct Jupiter, conjunct Uranus in Taurus. Long story short, your emotions are probably going to be deeper than normal. You might get hit with unexpected emotional outbursts from deep within that you didn't know existed. However, if you listen to your intuition, you might unlock doors to prosperity and the expansion of consciousness, specifically through the internet. On that day as well, we've got that moon in Taurus sextiling Saturn in Pisces, so it's a good day to further your spiritual goals. What do you want to learn next? How do you want to learn it? How do you want to apply it? Where do you grow from here? Stagnation equals depth. Never forget that. On the 14th, we've got the moon conjunct Uranus and Taurus. I want to let you in on a little secret. And I have shared this before in the videos, but I think it bears repeating here. Whenever you've got the moon in Taurus and it's making a conjunction to Uranus or a square to Uranus or an opposition to Uranus, it means you want to watch out for food poisoning. Taurus and Cancer correspond to food predominantly. So whenever the moon's involved, it's saying that your impulse eating habits may make you sick rather than give you instant gratification. On the 14th, we've also got the moon conjunct Uranus, which we just talked about. It's squaring Mars in Aquarius. Up until now, we've been talking about pushing the envelope, embracing the new, embracing the visionary. And now on the 14th, it says, well, don't be surprised if on the 14th that comes back to bite you in the ass. Now, whether that means you thought everybody was on board on your plans and now you're finding out they're not, or maybe what you want to do is so far into the future that there is no system or guidance for you to lean on, and so you feel defeated. However that plays out, this is key to remember because it does remind us that even though we have visionary ideas, we live in a world that is largely stuck in the past and non-receptive to new ideas. H.P. Lovecraft, the famous American prophet, talked about this 100 years ago when he talked about the fact that the oldest fear of humanity is fear of the unknown. Now, you may be listening to this and think, well, I don't agree with him. Well, guess what? I don't either. But you know what? He's right. The mass of people that inhabit this planet that we are all on together would rather stick with what they know than try something new. And that retards the growth of the species. It is what it is. To quote Jim Morrison from The Doors, we got the guns, but they got the numbers. On the 15th, the Ides of March, we have the moon in Gemini trining Pluto in Aquarius, so it's a good time to reach out and communicate with your friends. Have a good time. Have some fun. Do something just absolutely cerebral or intellectual. That moon in Gemini, though, is squaring Saturn in Pisces. So yes, go out and have your fun. But also realize that while you're having that kind of fun, it may be delaying your spiritual growth. But for today, that's okay. Also on the 15th, that moon in Gemini sextiles Mercury, which is conjunct the North Node and Chiron in Aries. So those conversations you have with others, you might not see instant results from them, but you will see results, spiritually speaking, and with regards to the healing you need to do for your own psyche. That moon in Gemini is also squaring Venus in Pisces, so be careful with your flirtations. Be careful being flighty. It may screw up a romantic relationship that you're in, or you might be so scattered you can't focus on finishing the creative project that you have in front of you. And yes, let me be clear, if you're a creative person and you can't finish a creative project, you're failing. On the 16th, we've got that same moon in Gemini now trining Mars in Aquarius. So it continues to be a good day to spend with friends and family and loved ones and casual acquaintances and doing cerebral things just for your own amusement. But that moon in Gemini is also squaring the sun, which is now conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So you might take a light-hearted view of things on the 16th, and it's not going to work out so well for you. Somebody might say something to you, you make a frivolous comment, and then you realize that, oh, they were serious, and they felt what they were telling you on a very deep level, and now, because of your flippant attitude, you've caused an emotional wound in them. Now, with the sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces, this is kind of a tricky situation. First of all, it means meditation invocation, anything that has to do with contacting non-physical beings is at its height. So go out and meditate. Journey to reach those beings. This is a great day for ritual and ceremonial magic, specifically sympathetic magic. But the problem that we have here on the 16th is that Neptune is a malefic. Usually Neptune is prominent in the charts of addicts and those that escape reality and can't handle what's in front of them. So if you are in recovery, the 16th might be challenging. If you have addiction problems, the 16th is when they might just get thrown in your face and encourage you to do something about it because those old ways no longer work. On the 17th, we see a continuation of that conjunction, but now thrown into the mix is the moon in Cancer, trining Venus in Pisces. So the 17th and really the 18th are good days to enjoy the romance. Reach out and hug your partner, whoever they might be, whatever they might look like. Open up your heart. The moon in Cancer is all about your intuition, your connection with immediate friends and long-standing acquaintances. And Venus in Pisces is very open, it's very sensual, it's very loving, it's very tender, and in a lot of ways, it's also very weak. So, console each other. Have heart-to-heart conversations. Deepen the connections that are there. On the 18th, the moon in Cancer sextiles Jupiter in Taurus. So it's a good day to listen to your intuition, specifically when it comes to money, finances, and the career, because you might find you unlock some doors for further growth down the road and you see immediate results to go with the long-term results that you have now solidified. That moon in Cancer is also squaring Mercury and the North Node in Aries. So while you're listening to your intuition, you may find you have to put your healing on the back burner for a day or so, and that is okay. Or perhaps you get so hung up on bonding with the immediate family and friends that you miss the networking opportunities that could bolster you forward, both spiritually and professionally. And that same moon in Cancer is trining Saturn in Pisces. So it's a good day for emotional changes. What are you going to do to change how you handle your emotions? If you look back at your emotional track record and you see it's more of a disaster than it has been a success, well, the only constant denominator there is you. And the day to make those changes is the 18th. Now, this is another day, like we talked about earlier in the month, that is good for spiritual initiation. Maybe learning a new spiritual system, maybe getting initiated into a higher level of an existing spiritual system that you work with would be good. Maybe embracing mysticism and meditation on that day would be good. And all of this sets the stage for equinox, which is on the 19th or 20th, depending on where you are in the world. In the northern hemisphere, this is spring equinox. In the southern hemisphere, it is the autumn equinox. And I've been hearing from Adam Knox and other Cult of You members that in other parts of the planet right now, it is above average hot. Thanks, climate change. So I point this out because the seasons are shifting. They're shifting for the cooler in the southern hemisphere. They're shifting towards the warmer in the northern. Now, besides the sun-changing signs, which means the 18th and the 19th and the early part of the 20th will be full of all kinds of changes in the overall vibe of life, on the 19th, we have the moon in Leo trining the sun in Aries. So what this tells us is this is the day for the first quarter of the year. When you say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, I've got a plan, I'm moving forward, and I'll stop working towards it when I'm dead. Doesn't mean you have to keep up that attitude towards your dead. It just means that you make that firm, committed statement to yourself and to the world at large. You're going to exhibit who you are and what plans you have to help the species growing forward, and you put it into action. Now, earlier in the month, we talked about emotional or mental wounds, well, emotional wounds too, with Neptune moving through Pisces, but mental wounds and how they can be limiting factors. On this day, you find that you're at the other end of the journey. Earlier in the month, up until now, it's been about seeing your psychological limitations, seeing your mental limitations, processing them, figuring out how to heal them if they can be healed. And on the 19th, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. If you spent the first 3 weeks of the month figuring out what's going on in your head, then on the 19th and the 20th, it's time to say, I got a handle on it. Now it's time to start this new year off right. And to just make things more complicated, because sometimes that's what astrology does. The moon in Leo on that day does form a tense opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. So this gives us the warning that, yeah, you might know what you need to do, what's best for you, for your greatest growth and good. Doesn't mean others are going to like it. It doesn't mean that others are going to be okay with it. It doesn't mean that people that are looking at moving ahead like you will be on board with it. So sometimes you got to work in solitude. On the 20th, I kind of touched on it there with the 19th, but we've got that moon of Leo squaring Jupiter in Taurus. And what this is saying is that you focus on having a healthy ego. You might find that to offset it, you play things financially conservative and you stick to your diet rather than trying new things. The moon in Leo on the 20th is also trining Chiron, which is now conjunct Mercury and the north node of the moon in Aries. This is a little bit of a warning, especially to those of you that really work with the high-end spiritual ideas, because it's saying if you get caught up in too much of the toxic ego, it will help you grow spiritually speaking, but it's going to take some work. It's going to take some patience. Patience is a word that corresponds to the trine aspect. However, all this does mean it's a good time, and I'm going to use some symbolism here, so adapt it to your preference. It is a good time to reach up and grab God, Spirit, Lucifer, whatever name you have for divinity, by the throat and say, I'm coming for what's mine. On the 21st, that same moon in Leo squares Uranus in Taurus. So watch out what you eat, specifically greasy foods, foods that are high in cholesterol. They may cause indigestion or food poisoning. The moon in Leo on that day is also opposing Mars in Aquarius, so tempers might be shorter, and that's not just the tempers of other people. It's also your own temper. To illustrate this, you might know exactly what you need to do for you, and boy, does it make other people angry. Or maybe you get so focused on doing what is best for you that you don't see how you are hurting many, many others that are trying to move forward with their lives. Also on the 21st, Venus is conjunct Saturn in Pisces. I really like this for those of you that are into trip hop. The song Really Real by Tricky kind of sums this up. If you're not familiar with the song, what this is saying is with Venus conjunct Saturn in Pisces, this day in particular is a litmus test for your romantic situations. Are they going to last or not? Now, this is also a good day to make your spirituality more real, more physical, more tangible. I can only tell you that's a good thing to do. I can't really tell you what it looks like because it depends on your spiritual journey, and your journey is not mine. Sweet baby Jesus, mine is not yours. On the 22nd, we've got the moon in Virgo opposing the Venus-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. So emotionally, it's a good day to compartmentalize. It's a good day to work on systems. It's a good day to work on analytical thinking. And that might mean putting romance aside or putting your creativity down to engage in left brain thought processes. On the 23rd, that moon in Virgo trines Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. So we see for the 23rd, and it carries over into the 24th, that it's a time to focus on your daily work routine, your professional life, your work habits, how you approach the ideas of success and prosperity in your own life, as well as good health. The 23rd also has that moon in Virgo opposing Venus in Pisces. So bury yourself in your work, especially if romantic relationships are not working out well. And on the 23rd, Mars enters into Pisces. So like I talked about with Mercury and Venus earlier in the month, whenever you have a planet changing signs, you can expect challenges having to do with that planet for a short period of time. And in this case, the Mars ingress Pisces tells us that you want to watch your temper. You want to be careful not to be distracted while you're driving or traveling. You might also find that your attention shifts from the cerebral to the mystical and the spiritual and the creative. And that's okay, but remember, the rest of the day is all about the work, not about the play. On the 24th, we've got that moon in Virgo opposing Neptune in Pisces, so the work theme continues. And that moon in Virgo is forming an out-of-sign trine with Pluto in Aquarius. Long story short, if you've got a visionary idea for the future, on the 24th, it's time to say, okay, that's a great goal. What steps do I take to get there? How do I break it down into smaller, manageable pieces? Rome wasn't built in a day. And when I'm talking visionary ideas like I have been this whole video, I mean the kind of world-changing visionary ideas that are out there. Now, you may think your idea can't change the world, but I can almost guarantee you that it can if applied properly and if you're connected with the right people and resources. On the 25th, we've got that moon in Libra opposing the North Node Chiron conjunction in Aries. So your quest for diplomacy, your quest for balance, your quest for harmony is probably self-sabotaging on this day. It's okay to be a diplomat and a peacemaker and harmonious, but if you're selling yourself short in a toxic way at the time, knock that shit off. Be a diplomat, but be ready to lay down the law if necessary. There's a phrase that's been coming around on social media lately, and I'm glad I've seen it. It's better to be a warrior in a garden during peace than a gardener in war during wartime. The 25th is a really good example of that. The 25th gives you a day to put that idea into practice. And on that day, because that's not complex enough, it's the full moon. And I'm going to take a quick minute to say, when we have a full moon in a sun sign, the full moon is called by the sun sign, not the moon sign. So on that day is the full moon in Aries, which means the following Sunday is Easter. It's amazing how Christianity uses astrology and then poo-poos astrologers, isn't it? I love it. It speaks to the Giordano Bruno in me. On the 27th, we've got the moon in Scorpio squaring Pluto in Aquarius. Your passion may work against what you are trying to achieve for the future of your life. Your intensity and self-focus might not resonate with the changes that are necessary for many, many people. Did I skip the 26th? Why, yes. Yes, I did. But you know what? There's not really much to know on the 26th. It's the hangover of the 25th, and it's the foreplay of the 27th. Also on the 27th, we got the moon of Scorpio opposing Mercury in Aries, so we have an out-of-sign opposition here. Long story short, you may find that your passion and intensity blinds you to what others are telling you, or you may find that you would rather have deep conversations, but the average person around you wants the 30-second elevator pitch, and that can be frustrating. We also have that moon in Scorpio on that day trining Mars in Pisces. So it's another good day for spiritual initiation. It's another good day to begin new creative projects. On the 28th, we've got that same moon in Scorpio trining the Venus-Neptune conjunction in Pisces. So just like the 27th was a good day for spiritual initiation and trying new things spiritually, the 28th says, here, hold my beer. This is a better day. Also on the 28th, that moon in Scorpio is opposing Jupiter and Taurus. So watch your spending for the day. Don't make any large money moves during that day. Or if you do and they're business related, it's probably going to be a setback for you personally. Or on the 29th, that same moon in Scorpio continues. Get a lot of that moon, aren't we? And it trines Neptune and Pisces. So really the 27th, 28th, and 29th, all across the boards, are fantastic for spiritual initiation and going to higher levels with your creativity. But what the 29th brings to the challenge is that it's a good reminder to operate in silence, because we have the moon in Scorpio opposing Uranus and Taurus. So you might find that your intensity works against you on the internet. We also have the moon in Scorpio on the 29th, sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. So it is a good day to lead by example. Let your passion and your intensity and your drive be a beacon to those that want change and want to grow into better states of being. On the 30th, we've got the moon in Sagittarius squaring Mars and Saturn in Pisces. Mars and Saturn are both malefics like Neptune, and with the moon in Sagittarius, it tells us that if you're honest with people, it might cause problems. Not just arguments, accidents, violence, wounds that cannot be healed from. So check yourself on the 30th. Also on the 30th, though, to help offset that same moon in Sagittarius is trining the sun at Aries. So basically, to piece this together for the 30th is saying that if you know your wounds and communication style might work against your emotions or the emotions of others, fuck it. Turn your attention elsewhere, specifically on travel, physical activity, exercise routines, defining your will and what you want to accomplish before you die. All of those are good things to do on the 30th. And if you do that, you're helping yourself growing spiritually speaking. And on the 31st, I mentioned it earlier, we have the start of retrograde season for the astrological year. From the end of January until the 31st of March, we have had months of forward momentum and progress. We have had months to start new projects. And now with the 31st of March, which is very late in the evening in the Western world and early in the morning on April 1st in Europe and all parts of Europe, Western, Central, and Eastern Europe, we have first Mercury retrograde, which is going to be in Aries. So I'm pretty sure most of you know what a Mercury retrograde is. It's a good time to wrap up projects that are not completed. It's a good time to wrap up things that are undone. And when it goes retrograde in Aries for the first time during a year, it means all of the Mercury retrogrades will be in fire signs for the astrological year, which means you can chart them without having to pay close attention to the transits. Basically, whenever Mercury moves into a fire sign, which is Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, there's going to be a Mercury retrograde. If you look at the calendar and you see that a fire sign is the next sign coming up for the sun, then you know a Mercury retrograde is right around the corner. On the 31st specifically, we have the moon in Sagittarius squaring Venus, which is conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So here again, watch your language. Focus on spirituality rather than freedom, autonomy, sovereignty. That Venus conjunct Neptune in Pisces tells us it's a good day for meditation. It's a good day for the intuition. It's a good day for psychic development. It's a good day to lose yourself in the throes of love. And it's a good day to just create until your heart's content. You see how that eliminates the problem posed by the moon in Sagittarius? Also on the 31st, that moon in Sagittarius is trining Mercury in Aries. So communicating with yourself about your will. I'm going to let you in on a little magical secret here. A lot of times people are like, well, I don't know my will. How can I find it out? And I like to use real world examples, physical world examples, because that's what most people relate to. Coming up with a statement to define your will is the same as writing the objective on a resume. So if you're like, wow, damn, Bill, I suck at both. Get good at it. Practice it. What words or a sentence or two define what you are here to do? When you figure that out, you will have tapped into the energy of the 31st. Also on that day, we've got Saturn in Pisces sextiling Jupiter in Taurus. So it's a good day to exhibit your emotional and spiritual growth in your daily life. And don't be surprised if good things come your way on that day. And happy birthday, spiritualism! March 31st, 1848. It's when it was founded. So we celebrate another birthday here. As you can see, for the whole of the month, the theme is moving ahead, but not blindly to the degree that you self-sabotage, or not so blindly to the degree that you fall into a false sense of delusion or illusion, thinking that you have this wonderful idea and it's going to be implemented immediately. No, big changes like the scope that I'm talking about take months, years, even decades to manifest. So what we're talking about here is that transition point of going from the old to the new, of going from the known to the unknown. There is no reason to fear the unknown. Now, if you disagree with me and you think there are reasons to fear the unknown, that's okay. That's your prerogative. And when I've evolved to the next level with everybody else that shares my view, I will happily reach back and help pull you up to the future. These themes, the old, the traditional, conflicting with the new and the future, are all themes of March. And you don't have to have a blanket response to everything. I like to move forward in some ways of my life. And in other ways, I like to stay traditional with my life. It's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And as my friend Kayleen, who owns the shop Echoes of Eternity in Missouri, made a meme for me on some comment I made on some Facebook post not too long ago. Tradition is the bedrock that we build the future on, but if it becomes a limiting factor, if tradition becomes a limiting factor, then there's a problem. Anyway, thank you to Adam Knox and the Cult of You for getting this edited and out there. Daily horoscopes will continue. Monthly horoscopes will continue. For those of you that have been looking for a sign on when to move forward with new projects, it's after that equinox in March. So go ahead and take the first few weeks to plan what you're doing and then hit the ground running around the 19th or 20th. But just know that when you hit the ground running during those days, that Mercury retrograde at the end of the month is going to be a litmus test for you to see if you're as prepared as you think you are and help you troubleshoot the plans that you are creating. Until we chat again, may we all receive blessings of good health, prosperity, and success as we all move forward in the next season of our lives. And to quote the good book, Aum Ha.